It was a wild game that ended in yet another late United winner, and it was a game that we were fearful of. We didn't know whether Carrick United could pass the test of, with no offence to Fulham, United playing a team that we are expecting to beat. We were expecting United to have more of the ball and pass that test, as we know we've been better without it this season. Well, yet again, we had less of the ball and we ended up winning the game. So we haven't actually seen United playing with more of the ball yet. And on one hand, in this game, we were a Seshko headed away from making it a comfortable 3-0. On the other, Fulham did control a lot of the ball, and it did eventually lead to United needing that Seshko late winner to get us over the line. It was truly a mixed bag, and in this video, I want to break it all down. I want to look at the impactful Casemiro, the role that Cunha had in this game, and also the tactics that Carrick used along the way as well. So as always, guys, drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's get into it.
Right, okay, let's go.
The most worrying thing for me from this game was the United high press. We never really got close to Fulham, and they regularly just bypassed our midfield far too easily. They had clever rotations, including the likes of Sanderberger, Iwobi. You had Smith Rowe dropping at times, which I'm going to show you in a little bit now. Iwobi has become such a problem player for us with his clever movement. We saw that when Amorim was in charge. Then also Sanderberger. I remember when Sanderberger was linked to United, the amount of disrespect that he was shown then, because he's shown that he's such a good player in the Premier League. Regularly churning out 7 out of 10 performances. His passing range is very good, and also defensively, doesn't really put the foot wrong. Physicality is top. If we could get him for sort of 20 million, that's what we were linked with obviously back in the day. If we could get him for that right now, I'd absolutely snap your hand off. But it was this sort of high press that was going to be the question going into this game, because you'd expected to do it more up against the likes of Fulham than we saw up against Arsenal and City. But United, we didn't really pass the test. As you can see here, I've highlighted Fulham's free in midfield. Iwobi this time has gone and ventured further forward, with Smith Rowe dropping deeper. And it was these rotations that United never really handled throughout the game. Again, now you've got Smith Rowe as he drops the ball off. Iwobi gets it. So Iwobi now is starting to go back into that centre midfield position. But then as United are sort of trying to venture a little bit further up the field, then you've got Cunha coming inside, marking Wilson, who's dropping a little bit deeper. But there's not enough pressure on the ball from United. So then the Fulham centre-back, Cunha, can just pass the ball out to Castagna, who's on the right-hand side. And then Fulham are over the United press, and they've bypassed United's midfield. There was another instance just a little bit later on where Sanderberger this time, you can see him and Iwobi. You got Mino marking the both of them. So he doesn't know which one he needs to go and mark. And you've also got Fernandez as well. He's also marking the goalkeeper, doing the shadow marking job on the centre-back as well. So there's just not enough United players and too many Fulham players in that area in midfield. So then you've got the keeper who can play that ball into Sanderberger. He can play the ball out wide then. And then again, Mino gets a little bit distracted by Iwobi, which you go into. You don't know which player to mark again. So Sanderberger is left free in the middle, and he can play that ball out wide to Fulham's right-hand side. And again, Fulham have bypassed that United midfield. Now, what did Carrick do to sort of counteract that? Well, in the second half, he did instruct one of Bruno or Mbuemo to drop a little bit deeper at times to really do that marking job on Sanderberger to help Mino and Casemiro in the United midfield. And it did help, so Carrick, fair play to him. He did something to obviously counteract what Fulham were doing. But still, Fulham were able to play out a little bit too easily at times. And this was an instance in that second half where, again, not enough really pressure on the Fulham centre-back. Sanderberger and Iwobi. You can see Fernandez has dropped a little bit deeper on Sanderberger. But Iwobi still has too much time in that midfield. He can pick it up, turn, play that ball further forward. Smith Rowe runs off the back of Casemiro. And again, Fulham are on United's back line. And this happened consistently throughout that game. So it's going to be a little bit of a worry for Carrick United now. In terms of passing that particular test, didn't quite do it. Because obviously Carrick hasn't had a lot of time to work with this United team as of yet. It was clear in the first couple of games that we had Arsenal and City, you were going to retreat into that sort of low block and play from there. But up against obviously the likes of Fulham, you'd expected to press a little bit more. We tried it, didn't quite work really for a lot of the time in this game. Fulham did have a lot of the control of the ball. And also for me, when United were retreating into that mid-block and the low block that we saw up against Arsenal and Man City, it was just a little bit passive. There were certain phases of this game that United were just a little bit too passive for me, and it could have easily cost us in this game. And this was a prime example of it. We had a little bit of time after United scored where United were on the front foot. But then we started to let Fulham back into the game, and this was a prime example of it. Iwobi picking up that ball. He can just get his foot on the ball, have a look further forward, and there's no United player really putting pressure on him. Wilson can run off the back of United's two midfielders, get that little bit of space in between the defence and midfield then, play that ball out wide. Fulham can get a dangerous cross in United's box. It comes out wide to Chukwueze on the left-hand side. He can get another cross, dangerous one, into United's box. United do manage to clear it on that instance, but it was just an example of United's sort of low block just being a little bit too passive, allowing that space in between the lines, and we didn't do that a lot in the first couple of games under Carrick. But in this Fulham one, United were too passive at times, particularly the end of the first half and the end of the second half as well. It almost cost us, but luckily it didn't. All that being said, United with the ball, we were far better than what we've seen for large parts of the season. You can see the confidence that we've got in these attackers now, and it was just sort of sloppy errors at times that give possession away cheaply. Sometimes we didn't sustain the attacks. They were the main problems with United with the ball. But when you're speaking of the attacks and you're bringing in this man Casemiro, the assist, I mean, that assist is wild. And it came from a guy that we know, obviously, he's on his farewell tour now, and he just keeps making that job of replacing him just harder and harder week by week. He once again found the net from a set piece. We know how vital he is for United in that area. But then also you're looking at the defensive side of the game. Once again, he goes off the pitch and United just sort of collapse. Not going to pin it all on Ugarte, because I don't think it all comes from one player, United letting the lead slip in these games. But it's almost as if United fans, the United players, whenever Casemiro goes off, we all just start panicking then. But breaking down that second United goal, and you can see for United here in this instance, an example of United overloading one side with Cunha. You've got 7 United players all on this one side, and it gives Casemiro just a load of different options to play that ball to. He's got a couple of players out wide, he's got Mbeumo to the left of him, but then he can also play through the middle then. And it's that sort of through the middle play that we haven't really seen a lot of under Amorim at United. United never really played through the centre. It was all really sort of around the opposition team. But United now, we've got the options to play through the centre of the pitch. Casemiro, I mean, the pass is simply just ridiculous, because him obviously doing that no-look stuff throws the defenders off the centre a little bit. Cunha can get that little bit of extra time and space, and it was an excellent finish from him. And the goal then brings me on to the role of Matheus Cunha in this game. And even though he won the free kick, even though he scored that second goal, I'm still not totally convinced of him being on the left flank. And you've got to hear me out on this one, because I know Cunha still had a very, very good game. But we all know why he wasn't starting versus City and Arsenal. Dogu was a great shield for us in defence, and he helped Luke Shaw massively in those games. Do think if Dogu was fit, he probably would have started this Fulham one, even with Cunha doing the very good cameos in those first 2 games under Carrick. But you can see an example here with, I don't know whether it was instructional, but Cunha this time is trying to help out United in midfield. Obviously, you've got Mino and Casemiro marking Sanderberger and Smith Rowe, but Cunha is trying to help, locking onto Iwobi, stopping the ball going into that midfield area. But the trouble is, he's leaving the right back behind him, so that right back, Castagna, then can get all this time and space. Luke Shaw also is very late to get out to him. Doesn't amount to anything in this instance, but it's an example of Cunha being caught out of position a little bit. Again, don't know whether that was instructional for him to go and lock on more into that middle of the pitch. It might have been, but you can see how far away Cunha is from that left-hand side then, and that leads to a very dangerous Fulham opportunity. And Fulham not really playing a traditional right winger or having a full-back that could really hurt Luke Shaw did help United in this one. And in fairness to Cunha, he did go and help Luke Shaw most of the time in this game. But it's in attack where I still also have my doubts with Cunha on the left-hand side. Because we know he's not going to play as a traditional winger. He heavily reminds me of when we used to have Mata on the wing. Mata used to play on the right-hand side, but you never really ever used to see him being on the right-hand side for United whenever we had the ball. And this is what we've seen from Cunha just on the opposite side now. He's meant to be starting on the left, but his position much more sort of either in the middle or playing on the right-hand side. You very rarely actually see him linking up with Luke Shaw on the left. You can see a heat map of what Mata used to do compared to someone who's a more traditional winger like Amad Diallo. Mata is receiving much more of his passes sort of all over the pitch. And you can see what Dogu was doing in that game up against Arsenal. Never really ventured far from that left-hand side. So United had sort of two wingers that were really holding the width on both sides. And obviously there's pros and cons to both of it. I did think that when Mata was doing it for United, whether it was obviously instructional from the manager or not, I just worry that it becomes a little bit predictable when you're doing it sort of consistently. Yes, you can do it on occasion. Obviously, overloading one side is what got United that goal, the second one with Cunha. And at times, obviously, Mbeumo and Fernandes were going out to the left-hand side to help Luke Shaw in possession, but largely whenever Luke Shaw got the ball, we were having to pass it backwards as he had such little support. Obviously, when Mata was doing it for United, I just felt United became far too predictable. Most of our attacks came down the left-hand side when Mata was there because he kept wandering over that side. It was the same in this game for United. Cunha would wander over to the right-hand side, so that was where most of dangerous attacks were coming from. But if you're doing this really uber consistently, I do just think it becomes a little bit too predictable. The opposition can lock onto that one side then, and then United will struggle to really play through. So it's just something to keep an eye on, not something necessarily that I'm going to have a major go at Cunha for. Obviously, Carrick knows that's the role that he's going to play. But it's just something for me that we need to keep an eye on in the next few weeks now if Cunha is going to stay on that left-hand side. There we are, guys. Super important 3 points. This United team under Carrick is looking full of confidence now at least. But there are still some question marks there, but there's always going to be. Tottenham next up now at home yet again. If we can win that one again and keep progressing, keep closing the gap on the teams in front of us, hopefully pulling away from the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea. I mean, you can't ask more from Carrick really at the minute. Long may, obviously, this winning run continue. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new around here. I'll catch you in the next one.